Right, ladies and gents, welcome to the latest episode of 5v4 Introduces. This week, I'm joined by No Offense. Noah, thank you for joining me, bud.
Happy to be here.
Oh, mate, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. So, what we normally do is we talk a little bit about kind of streaming, how it all started and any goals and things you've got. And then we'll go a little bit about kind of growing up, interests, bit of background. And then towards the end, we normally do a bit of kind of random questions just to mix it up a little bit. So, we'll make a start. So in terms of streaming, where did the username come from? So the No Offense, is that literally your name, or where did the idea come from?
Thank God it's not my actual name. No Offense actually came from back in, I think, like 2016. I had originally thought about doing YouTube, and I had kind of discussed it with my then roommate, and who's still my friend today, kind of what I would want. And he came up with No Offense, which is, surprisingly, I should have come up with it because it's something I've, not struggled with, but dealt with my whole life, where people, say no, and then they hesitate about what they're going to say, no. So that kind of led to the No Offense, which is, no offense, like intended or anything like that. So I just kind of went with it. And, I decided that when I wanted to restart streaming, that I would use that name, because as I've mentioned in my streams, no one has ever built a brand really around offense, because why would you do that? Because it's not a very interesting thing to build a brand around, but it seems to be working out and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So it's a name that people seem to like a lot.
Yeah, it's that unique selling point that I suppose everybody strives for, but not everybody can get. So to come across it, it's pretty good. What made you start streaming? So you mentioned that you kind of thought about the whole YouTube thing, and then you've come to Twitch. What prompted that?
So when I had originally done back in 2016 with YouTube was like making YouTube videos, let's play content, everything like that. I worked for a little bit. I maybe did it for a couple months or two, but that was kind of towards the end of my college career, and then I had to kind of get internships and do that. And the content that I made, I wasn't really very proud of, just because, the equipment I had, laptop, there was a constant, fan sound in the background. So I put it down, kind of buckled back down to work. And then, from the past, I don't know, 3 to 4 years when I was working after college, it was fine. The job was not the best. It was sales. So, it was a constant pressure and everything that. But when I got actually laid off in October of this past year, I kind of discussed it with my wife, and after looking through a couple of jobs, like, no, I don't really want to do this. I might as well take this chance and try and do Twitch, because it's something I've always wanted to do. So I picked it up in, I think, like late November, really kind of buckled down in the beginning of January after the holidays. And, we've been having a blast since. We've been growing, which I've been really happy about. And, if I can make this, I've never kind of been upfront about it, but I've never had any like dreams of massive fame or like wealth or anything. I just kind of want to be able to do it just for a stable living, so me and my wife can, have a nice little home and stuff like that. So just kind of a better quality of life than grinding out and being on sales trips and conferences all the time.
Yeah, I know all about that. So obviously it started, was it COVID that kind of prompted the giving it a go full time?
Yeah, it was definitely COVID. I mean, the fact that my sales job had led me to have a little bit of savings, pay out the student debt. The stimulus checks certainly helped in kind of having those in the background. And then we had a huge refund, because when you get laid off, you tend to overpay on your taxes because, you expected more income than you were anticipating. And then my wife also got like a nice big raise, right? Like around that time. So said, I might as well give it some time. And she's been a huge support. So massive shout out to Annie and all the support she gives, because without her, I definitely wouldn't be able to do this, 9 to 4 every single weekday and hang with everyone.
Yeah. I mean, what was it like kind of that when you'd made that decision to think, right, I'm going to give Twitch a go and pretty much just jump in and go full time?
It was scary at first. I mean, I still think about it a lot. Like, it still weighs heavily on my mind a lot of the time about like what I need to do to keep growing and keep kind of building the community that we have. But it was a lot scarier at the beginning, because at the beginning, when like nobody's watching you, and it's like, oh, like she would come home and I'd be like, I got one follower today. It was like, maybe this isn't the best idea. But now that things have kind of like, we're going up and up. It's less scary. It still weighs on my mind, obviously, because it's like, okay, well, we still do want to continue our life. But luckily, I do just kind of have to remind myself, as most things, it's just like, hey, just take a deep breath, kind of put it in perspective, because I'm only, 24. So, and, I still have, that's still young. I mean, most people would say that's very young. So I still have a lot of time left to do kind of whatever I want with my life. So this is something I want to take a chance at. So I might as well give it my all and see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it definitely helps having a supportive partner as well. Because I think anybody watching this, if they went to their other half and said, right, I'm just going to give Twitch a go, like, I think 90% of the partners would be kind of like, what? You want to sit in the house and play video games? Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely, I mean, the fact that I had attempted it before kind of made it a little bit easier to understand. I would say my parents and even my grandparent still don't quite understand kind of what it is, but it's just kind of the technology gap for them. But with Annie, she definitely understood that, hey, I know this is something you really want to do. She knew I was miserable. Our expenses are really low because, we keep a tight budget around here. So,
yeah,
we're still saving up savings and that's the best part, is just, I can give this a go. And we're not like eating through everything we've saved up so far.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off a little bit, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So is she a gamer herself? Does she take an interest, or is she very much go and do your thing?
She's never been quite into video games. I mean, a little while back, we bought a bunch of these Nancy Drew games that she used to play as a kid, and they're fun. They're actually a lot more challenging than I ever thought they would be, because some of the puzzles are just insane. I don't know how it's ever intended for children, but we play like, Wheel of Fortune sometimes on the Switch, or, she's never been, growing up, that just wasn't what she was into. She just never really had an interest in it, but she, gets why I'm interested in it and still supports it as a hobby, just kind of like I support her hobbies as well.
Brilliant. You've just hit 400 followers. Is that right?
Yep, we hit it yesterday, which was crazy to think how much we've grown in the past month and a half.
That's amazing. So now you've hit that milestone, and it's not even just the followers as well. The viewers you get are pretty consistent, and they're good numbers as well for such a short space of time. So what are your hopes or kind of your expectations now moving forward?
I try not to set too large a goals. I think a common pitfall for a lot of people is, it's very easy because, Twitch kind of dangles it like right in front of you and says like, oh, look, affiliate is such a huge thing. And it is, unlocking channel points and getting a little bit more control over your channel. But then I think a lot of people struggle with, what comes after affiliate. Okay, well, Twitch suggests partner, but partner is such a lofty goal. Having 75 average viewers, when you have, 75 followers isn't really realistic. So I've tried to avoid, I keep an eye on it, obviously, because 400 followers or, 500 in the future is a big milestone. I never thought I would, reach this point, but for me, it's more about just kind of making the best content that I can. I mean, obviously I want to grow. So it's like, was that a good stream? Was I proud of it? That's kind of what I want to focus on. That's why I don't focus too much on subs either, because, kind of like if they build it, they will come kind of thing. Like if the people like the content, they'll sub, they'll donate, they'll do the things they want to do to support me. And so far that's been true. So I just kind of set goals to, make the next stream better than the last one, or, try and think of new ideas of ways to engage the community, or just kind of make it a better place for people to hang out and just kind of relax.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you said is absolutely right. I think once people hit affiliate, there's nothing. Like, it's such a big gap. And I think that's why some people can get disheartened. I think I've been there myself. I'm kind of, affiliate's very reachable. It takes work, don't get me wrong, but it's reachable. Whereas that jump to partner, I think that's where it kind of potentially loses some people in terms of this. What am I aiming for next?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's been the best thing about your Twitch experience so far?
It's probably going to be the most generic answer, but it's the people. The vast amount of people that you get to meet and interact with. let alone the people from around the world, like Israel, the Netherlands, England, Spain, Australia, all these different places that you get to, kind of discuss and share experiences and you know, kind of erase borders for a little bit and just focus on one thing, which is just having fun and talking about whatever you want to talk. And then I would probably say the second part is getting to meet kind of, streamers, whether it's you having this conversation or, other people I've met just kind of doing stuff outside of Twitch or hopping into their channels and talking. And it's something that I kind of missed back from, I would say, the Xbox 360 online days, where you'd hop in a game, it was easy to just be like, hey, how you doing? And it's like, next thing you know, you play that person for like the next 5 years because
yeah,
it was just an easy to build relationship. It doesn't happen too much anymore, which is actually another reason why I started Twitch, because I wanted more people to play online with and more people to interact with without having to kind of like sift through like 90% of the garbage that's out there now.
Yeah. No, I know you mentioned it being a generic answer, but I think it's probably the one most people would understand. The amount of people I've played with since doing Twitch and things like that has grown massively. Like normally you'd have the same 2 or 3 people that you jump in games with, and now you're kind of like, yeah, I'll jump in Fortnite with this guy, or I'll play something else with this guy, and I'm like, all right, brilliant. Like, so no, I totally understand it. So you are in Florida right now. Is that where did you grow up in Florida, or is that kind of a thing that's just happened more recently?
No, I actually grew up in kind of a little bit north of Chicago, kind of what we call the Chicagoland area, where you're usually like an hour outside of Chicago, but it's not like the rest of Illinois, which is kind of just flat farmland. But I moved down to Florida in 2014 to attend college. It's the only university I applied to because I knew that was the one I wanted to go to. I got in. I wanted to live in Florida, so that was an easy stepping stone. And then once I moved down in 2014, besides going back for some holidays and stuff, I've been here since. So I suppose in August it'll have been about 7 years now I've been down here. So approaching
Nice.
at least a quarter.
What college did you go to?
I went to the University of Central Florida. It's actually one of the largest schools in the nation, just because it has a massive campus. When you see the campus, it's kind of like its own little city.
Yeah,
I highly recommend it. It's a great university, great, campus, great people. I didn't have a single bad really experience there.
yeah. What did you study?
So I studied business management, kind of more of a generic degree. I knew that I didn't really have any passion for like engineering or like nursing or medical or anything like that. So business was always kind of something that appealed to me, kind of setting goals and climbing, quote unquote, the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
But it was just a nice, easy degree, and kind of transition. I did want to originally work for Disney. So that was going to be an easy degree to transfer that into. But it, in my life, if I would go back, I would probably attend 2 years of community college first, and then really think about what I wanted to do with my degree, just not only to save money, because I ended up with massive amounts of student loan debt, which luckily is mostly paid off now. But that extra 2 years would have been nice to have, just to think about what I wanted to do.
Definitely. So growing up back just outside Chicago, what were your interests? What would little Noah be doing on a daily basis?
Well, my parents would probably say that I would spend most of my time playing video games, to the point where I had to have it limited at some point. But I actually had a lot of interest as a kid. There wasn't too much that I didn't like to do. We grew up pretty, fairly well off. My dad's an architect, usually, builds or designs houses for the more affluent and people in life.
Yeah.
So he designed our house, and there was a pond. So I used to like to fish a lot for walleye, and basketball is like my favorite sport, and just playing outside in the yard with the dogs and everything like that. So pretty simple. I bring lots of, just kind of Legos and toys like that. Wouldn't say I really had too many, like I wasn't like musically gifted or artistically gifted. So I wouldn't be like found like playing any instruments or making any art or anything. Just kind of typical, some sports, some video games, just some classic kid stuff.
Yeah. So who's your basketball team?
That's the thing. I have always preferred to, I'll say this: I don't have much of a competitive spirit in me when it comes to physical sports. I love to play sports with people. I could care less if I beat them in sports. So when it comes to like watching sports, I'm the worst. Like I'm like, I understand the sport completely. I get why people have big teams, but for me, it was like, I picked the teams based on the colors or like at the time. But I mean, my brothers, they grew up, in the Michael Jordan era of basketballs in Chicago. So, I mean, if I had to pick a team, it'd probably be the Bulls. But I mean, I couldn't tell you a single Bulls player that's on there. The 85 Bears and everything like that. So, I mean, it was a time when it was like Chicago sports was at an all-time high. And it was just, I kind of missed that boat a little bit, just grew up a little bit too late.
Yeah, just slightly. I know what you mean, though. And I think, especially for us in the UK, when it comes to American sports, unless you've got a link to a certain place or family in a certain place, you would often just kind of either pick a team because you like the city or you like the uniforms or whatever it might be. So, like my favorite city in the world is New York. So all of my American sports teams are New York based. So like the Knicks, the Yankees, the Jets. They're not very good, but so I know what you mean. But yeah, growing up just outside Chicago in the MJ era for your brothers must have been pretty good. So you played a lot of video games as a kid. What was the first game you remember playing?
I can't remember the first game I think I ever played, which was I think it was on the first ever Game Boy. It was a big gray block of a Game Boy, and it was my dad's. And I think it was Tetris was the first game I ever played, which it had no really effect. I mean, it was like whatever. The first game that sticks out to me the most is either Pokemon Yellow, which I've actually started picking up and playing during another streamer's streams, just because it's fun to play Pokemon alongside with someone. And then I would say the biggest one was Ocarina of Time for Zelda, was because it was like the first difficult game that I'd ever beaten as a kid, and it took ages and ages to beat, but it was such a blast of a time.
Yeah, I remember those Game Boys with the green screen and
yep,
as like the pinky purple buttons. Yeah, they were amazing. What was the game that changed everything for you? I mean, I think everybody kind of has that one game which you think that changed everything, and that really kind of sucked me in and made me just want to play video games. What was that game for you?
I would think it was probably when I first got my Xbox 360, and my brother had been playing The Elder Scrolls Oblivion for a long time, and that was the game I wanted to go and buy. And there was actually this package deal of The Elder Scrolls Oblivion and then Bioshock, because I think they were both games of the year at the time. So I obviously was excited about Elder Scrolls, but I had never heard of Bioshock. I'd never, discussed about Bioshock with anyone. So I popped that game in, and that game is, staring at my computer screen, my screensaver is Rapture. But that game changed everything for me, because it was like the first game that I was like genuinely enthralled with the story. I mean, the shooting mechanics and everything are fine, but the story and the world building and everything just felt so realistic, and it was, scary, but it was, exciting. It's one of my favorite games of all time, just because it was like, God, this is what like a really good game with a really great story can do. And then there's games that come like Mass Effect later that kind of enhance on that with even more decisions and everything. But Bioshock holds a special place in my heart in terms of just being this amazing story, amazing world, and it just kind of creates that feeling of once it's over, it's like, oh, just like you just feel a little empty inside. It's like, oh, I can't believe it's over.
Yeah, I know exactly that. And playing it as well, and you're like, I really want to finish it, but there's part of me that doesn't, so I can always go back to it just in case. No, I understand that. And so now kind of so away from Twitch, what do you do with your spare time?
Nowadays, usually the second I end my stream, my wife comes home, so then you kind of greet her if we need to make anything. I do like to cook. I don't get to do it as often as I'd like, but usually I help. For dinner, I have to make the biscuits. I have to make the gravy. I have to make the frittatas. So that's what we're having tonight, so that's exciting. Last year, my parents got me a bonsai kit, so I've been growing some bonsai trees. I wouldn't recommend growing them from seeds. After doing like a little bit of research, after planting them, everyone said, no, it's just don't grow bonsai trees. You're going to be growing trees for like 5 years before you can do anything, bonsai related with them. So, but I've been having fun because, I never really, besides helping my dad in the yard and everything, I never really tried to grow anything. So that's been fun. I've been trying to learn Japanese. I've been horrible about sticking to it. And then usually, there's lots of shows that I like, I've started reading Lord of the Rings. So I kind of have a wide variety of interests, and there's even more that I want to do, but there's not enough time. I know at some point, before I die, I definitely want to learn to play the piano, just because it's something that I've always found interesting, and it's probably my favorite instrument. So a lot of things I do.
Yeah, that's a wide range. So playing sous chef to the wife. Everybody does that, and can you just peel those potatoes? Okay. When you're in charge in the kitchen, what's your speciality?
I would say probably this meal that I'm making. This is like my favorite because it's like a really simple kind of Southern meal, and it's just like biscuits and white gravy, which I don't know if you guys are even familiar with white gravy over there, but
no.
It's just kind of flour and sausage and oil. So it's really simple to make, but it's just kind of like a really easy comfort food. But besides that, there's some some chicken recipes that I like to make. Everyone says that green bean casserole, because I make everything from scratch for Thanksgiving. They all love that, so they always make me make that for every year. Those are probably the big three.
That's brilliant. And learning Japanese as well.
Well, trying, yeah.
Of all the languages to choose, what made you pick Japanese?
It's always, for me, what I've always found is like to learn a language, you got to be really passionate about the culture. And I've always been kind of fascinated, going all the way back to kind of feudal Japan, and even their culture nowadays is very interesting to me. I spent 7 years in school, from I think like 6th grade all the way up to a junior in high school, which would be 11th grade or something like that. Being taught Spanish, but the culture had never really interested me. It would be incredibly useful because a lot of people do speak Spanish in the United States, but it's just something that I wasn't passionate about, so none of it really stuck. So I figured if I was going to learn a language, I'd want to be interested in the culture so then I could apply it. I do want to go to Japan someday, so I probably should get more on it than I am, but that was kind of the intention behind it, that if I'm going to learn a language, it might as well be something that not only do I want to use, but also there's more to it. I could find out more information about something that I already like.
Yeah, Japan does look like such an amazing place to visit as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And you mentioned there's some things kind of on the list that you want to do but haven't quite got round to. So what's top of the list?
Top of the list would probably be that learning piano. Just because it's something that it's wanted to do since a kid. And we actually used to have a piano, so that was why I was like, ooh, kind of missed that opportunity. And then the next would be scuba diving. Although that one's, a little bit more of a challenge because, obviously there's some physical capabilities behind it. Not that I'm not like physically fit enough, but, I do have to be, taught that. And then there's some amount of danger in it because, me personally, I do know kind of, because I've had my eardrum burst underwater from diving too deep. I mean, the equilibrium and everything gets all wonky and almost drowning and everything. But that's probably number 2. And 3 would just be probably either getting to go to Europe or Asia, because I've always wanted to go to England. I've always wanted to go to Italy and France and Spain and Germany and explore all those places, because one thing that I've always kind of missed in living in the United States is I don't find our history too interesting because it's very small and very short in terms of the grand scale of things, where, you guys over in Europe have, thousands of years of history and, ancient sites and everything that are kind of very cool, where, you can go back to colonial times pretty much anywhere on the Eastern Seaboard and kind of get a feel of what that life was like. But Europe, you can go, medieval and even pre that, and just a lot more interesting stuff going on there.
Yeah. Well, the way things are going, you're going to have plenty of offers for being a tour guide.
Thank you.
All right. So to finish off, I've got 6 questions. So the first one is, who's your hero?
Who do I look up to? I would probably go with my oldest brother. He's achieved a lot in his life in terms of, he was a football player, and he's actually in the College Football Hall of Fame for, I can't remember the exact award, but it was kind of best, like, I want to say he's like best all around, like well-rounded person, because it was like he was good at football, he was good grades, good out like in like extracurricular activities and helping out the community and stuff. And his drive in terms of just like how much he's done and where he is in life has just kind of been like, wow. He's always been, kind of, I guess it's maybe as like the fourth kid, and like him being the first kid has always been like, that's what I got to achieve, like that's what I got to go. So he kind of pushes me to go further, because he's just my big brother, so I'll always look up to him.
I mean, the College Football Hall of Fame, he set the bar pretty high.
When he got that, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, mom, dad, don't expect that. That's amazing, though. What is your biggest fear?
Biggest fear. I guess it kind of something that probably a lot of people struggle with, which is kind of that like imposter syndrome. And I had it a lot when I was in sales, even before kind of being laid off and everything, where even now with Twitch, it's like, am I actually good enough? Like, do I actually deserve this? I mean, with sales, it was like, people would tell me to do a good job, and it's like, yeah, but I could be doing better. And with Twitch, it's like, oh, people would be like, that's a great stream. I'm like, oh, I love hanging out here. And it's, it's like, kind of that little voice in the back of your head. It's like, yeah, but are they actually enjoying it? Or, they just here just to, pop in and that's it. So I guess, constantly having like trying to fight out that feeling that, you don't deserve what you've gotten so far, and just kind of living in, self-denial the whole time.
Yeah, I get that a lot. It's you find on Twitch, you second guess yourself a lot, and then it's kind of like, why are they here? Like, why are they watching me? Like, and it's battling through that and justifying the good things that happen. So yeah, I totally understand that. All right, so I think you might have answered this previously, but if money was no object, what would you do?
If money was no object, I would probably, well, I was going to say travel, because, traveling thing, but if money was no object, I would probably just buy, a decent sized house, not like anything, because I grew up with a big house. So I know that it's all it's cracked up to be. It's a lot of work to keep it clean and everything. So just kind of a simple house, and probably, settle down and have a family and just kind of do this for the rest of my life. Because if money wasn't an object, then, I'd rather get started with a family and just enjoy life to the fullest than, go out gallivanting across Europe and it'd be nice to do those things, which we could do later with the family, but I'd rather just kind of settle down and start a family.
Yeah. So is that on the horizon? Or is that not necessarily the near horizon?
Yeah, I would say it's closer than it's ever been, maybe a couple of years out or something like that. Depending on what happens here and what comes in the future. There's a lot of unknown in these times.
Brilliant. Are you clean or messy?
I'm very neat. I've always been very neat, especially compared to my siblings. Not to say that they were messy, but I've always kind of, everything has its place, and if it's not in its place, and it's that's I got to go fix it, and always made sure that apartments and home is very clean, because I do all the cleaning. So I do the dusting, the vacuuming, everything like that. I'm very, very sensitive about having a messy place.
Is your wife the same, or is she just happy to kind of, I'll let you do it?
I mean, she's not gonna fight me to clean, so she knows that I like to keep a clean place. But she's not messy in any way. She's very neat as well.
Yeah, good stuff. So we've got two more. So one more. This next one is, who's your celebrity crush?
Ooh, celebrity crush. I don't know. Male or female, or both, or geez, I don't. I mean, the meme one always with my wife is Ryan Reynolds, I think. Right, I would say Ryan Reynolds. Female, I don't really quite know. I don't really think about it too often. I always thought Olivia Wilde had really nice like eyes, like the dark hair and the blue eyes is nice. So I guess that would be probably my generic answer. I don't really think about it off the top of my head.
Good choices. Ryan Reynolds is a beautiful man, though.
Yeah.
And the last one, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. You can have 4 people, living or dead, for dinner. Who would they be?
Ooh, 4 people. Geez, that's a tough question. Um, I guess one would be, because I'm reading Lord of the Rings right now, so just kind of going off instinct. I guess Tolkien, I would be very interested to just kind of, after learning about how he writes and how he kind of like wrote as if he was in that world, I'd be very curious to kind of gather up more and more details and kind of what his writing process was.
Yeah.
Probably second one would be Benedict Cumberbatch, mostly because I would want to stand next to him because people say I look a lot like him, but I don't see it. So then I could be like, see the difference. He just also seems like a great person. 3, I suppose Julius Caesar would be just kind of an interesting person to talk to because, it was such a massive time in history in terms of, advancements and, almost conquering the whole known world and everything, but it kind of all fall into pieces. And then 4, I suppose, what I'm just kind of going off what jumps at me, Thomas Edison, in terms of just, being just an incredibly intelligent person at the time and having a lot of ideas. I know there's like that whole Nikola Tesla thing, but, when you see those kind of old timey photos and people, you sometimes forget that was not that long ago. So I'd be curious to see kind of what he thought of the, where the future was going and, where we are now.
Yeah. Oh, some brilliant choices there. And I can hazard a guess, very different from a lot of people as well, but that would be one really interesting dinner party. Like the Tolkien thing, I'd love to know where he gets his ideas from.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like you watch the movies and you read the books and you're kind of like, how do people come up with this stuff? Like amazing. Well, no offense, that has been amazing. I've thoroughly enjoyed that.
Me too.
I feel I know you so much better. And such an interesting guy. So thank you so much for joining.
No, it was a pleasure, and I'm honored that you invited me on here.
Anytime.